February 2006. What grade did you guys in?
6th.
6th grade?
Oh
So, Grandma Jenna.
Yeah.
So that was my freshman year in college. And a guy said yes to going on an adventure with God on a Friday night to go around and knock on dorm room doors at TCNJ and just try to see who wants to listen to the message and the good news of who Jesus is. And he knocked on my dorm room door, and it was open, and I was bored. And so I was like, sure, I'll have a spiritual conversation with you and this other girl, Jess. And within about an hour, I was captivated by the gospel. I was blown away by how beautiful the gospel was, that Jesus wanted a relationship with me, and the length that he would go to get it, that he would die on the cross. I had this weird idea of what Easter and everything was. I thought like he died and then like heaven was open and anyone could go. But they clarified for me that no, I was guilty of sin, and that I was not good enough to be in heaven apart from a relationship with Jesus, and I had to surrender my life to him, and I was like, I'm in. So I started knocking on doors and doing the same thing. By my senior year, I was the president of fellowship at TCNJ. And then I came on staff, and I felt called to come here to Ryder, because I was starting to hang out with Ryder students while I was a TCNJ student, and I felt bad for them. There was like 7 kids sitting around an iPod, and I have a fellowship of 220 that I'm running over here. How is this not okay with me? That there's this like little motley crew over here, but I can see so much of what God's doing over here. I want to see that happen, and so I said yes to go and come on staff, come to Ryder. So the kid who said yes to a risky adventure on a Friday night when you could be doing a million other things besides knocking on people's doors talking about Jesus was Chris. I don't know how you guys actually know that. I know, I've said it a bunch of times, but like whatever. So yeah, it was Chris. And so kind of when we were doing this, I'm thinking, yeah, that's that same thing. Like he gets to watch all this other stuff happen as the result of my life. Not that I'm doing anything great, but just being willing to be used by God. Because he said yes. And it doesn't even feel like I'm being all that brave and saying yes to a risky invitation, because the whole time I've been deciding this, I've been a blubbering mess. Literally crying at least 3 times a week. Since like November probably. But I've decided to plant a chapter at Monmouth University starting in the fall. And I'm saying yes to moving and starting something where there isn't, because in that same thing of like, how can there not be something there? God can move there. God loves, and even if just one student chooses to follow Jesus at Monmouth University, it's worth it. And this was a long time decision. I remember a couple years ago, we went to Monmouth on a visit. It was Earth Day. I got a plant. They were giving out plants on Earth Day, some club. It was probably the eco reps or whatever. And I was like, oh, plant. I'm like, I wonder if I'll ever plant here. And just kind of started to think about maybe this Monmouth place could be a place that God calls me. It's about the same as Ryder, so it's small, D1, private university, just an hour east of us at the beach. And I'm gonna plant a chapter there. Huh? You almost went there? Oh. Well, if we can convince Julianne to transfer there and run track for Monmouth, I'm working on that. I'm sorry, that's an inside joke. I shouldn't even try that. That probably brings up a lot of questions for you and for other people who aren't in the room about like, what's next? Like, what's happening? When are you going? So I'm gonna be moving this summer, and I'd love to talk more about and answer questions in Cranberries. I'll be around about once a week in the fall. But the guy who's taking over is Chris, and he's gonna stick around tonight. And so if you like it, right? And here's what I like about this. Who better to take over for me than the guy who like led me to faith? Like I can't think of anyone better. And Chris is an amazing systems guy. He can like just the way he thinks and the way he develops leaders. I don't know. Some of our leaders, we know we've been frustrated with this gain 30, lose 30, gain 30, lose 30 every year, where we like get a bunch of people and then they disappear, and we haven't seemed to been able to really grow outside the size of this room or outside the size of the SRC seminar room. And he can take it. He can take you guys there. And so I want you guys to get to know him, whatever it takes. Definitely come to Bossalea and get to know him while you're there. He'll be kind of hanging around on campus a couple different times this spring just to get to know people, see how things are working. He wants to learn from you guys. He doesn't want to come in and take over and here's what I'm gonna do. But I do think we really ought to listen to him, because he's gonna take this fellowship in a direction that I honestly can't. That I'm not meant for. I kind of need to go just start things, and he can roll it. So I'm excited, super excited. And so please don't be mean to him. And this isn't an April Fool's prank. This really is happening. Let's just be really clear. This is actually happening. And that's really bad timing, I know. But this is the only date we had available on the large group calendar, so that's what we did. So definitely I want you guys to, yeah, sorry. Well, yeah. So yeah, it's a lot to process. You can be totally fine being mad at me. Most of the leaders have already slammed the tables and said no a million times. And I'd like to talk more about it. I don't know how else to transition that into announcements, so if we could just